No, but you got to use stuff too. We're rolling, by the way, just so you know. No, we already are.
We are rolling.
We have been.
We're talking about knives and skinners.
We are talking about knives.
You're like, I got to use that because we're sitting here. A dear friend of ours, Travis
Olson.
Olson's
man.
amazing, man.
He is
Trav, if you're listening, we love you.
He makes some crazy cool knife handles on half-face blades, which if you're a knife guy, you know half-face blades. And we were just sitting here handling these blades. And what a gift.
He gifted us these knives. And it's like when you gift someone like a knife that you handcrafted, this is not a knife that he just went and bought, but he handcrafted these. And I got them right here in the man cave. I have it out on display because when someone gives, like you've given me things, there's a value on it that's you can't put a price tag to. You're just like, you know what? There's no price on that. Like the Ford pickup that you guys gave me, and you're just like, no, you can't. People have asked me, can I buy that? I'm like, nope, not for sale. And so I have this incredible skinner from Travis right here, and I want to use it to skin elk this year. And then I'm like, I don't want to lose that out in the woods. I'd be like, it's irreplaceable.
I did. He wanted me to do it. So I, with the one he gave me, I skinned an elk with it. And then I took a photo of it all bloody.
That's so awesome.
And, he loved that.
Yeah,
so.
That's what I'm going to do that this time. I'm not going to use it for gutting. I'm going to use it for skinning. That way I won't lose it out in the field, but I'll use it.
I actually used mine partly for both.
Did you really?
Yeah, just so I could do it. I did use it a little for gutting. There is an interesting thing too about this, and our friend Jim told the story of the meaning behind the exchange of knives.
Yeah.
As ranchers, goes way back in history. I was trying to find something about that for old cowboys and ranchers. They I think when they would meet, I think it was like for good luck or something, and you would trade knives.
Yeah,
as ranchers would do. So it's kind of this whole
tradition.
Yeah, this whole tradition about swapping knives, which I think is really cool. But anyway, that's. Yeah, kind of one of those weird guy things. My son's gotten into it too, so he has a half-face blade now too that Travis made with ivory, giraffe bone, and dinosaur true stone from Utah, which is in the handle.
It's crazy.
What is Travis's? I'm going to find his Instagram handle because I want you to see some of his stuff, some of his photos.
His creations are amazing.
Of stuff that he's made. What is it called? Edged Evolution. That's what it is. Edged Evolution, I think, is the Instagram handle. And go in there and look at some of the stuff he's made with half-face blades. It's so cool. And then there's the stuff, and there's a name for it. I didn't even know this was a thing until I saw some crazy handles he had made out of this material that has all of these colors in it. And it gets more colors in it as you sand it.
Oh, huh.
What it is somebody, and this is a beautiful story of repurposing, but in Detroit, in Michigan, at the car factories, you go into the paint rooms where they paint the cars, and over the years, painting however many cars a day they paint, the walls get coated, and it can become like 6 inches thick of coating.
Layer after layer of different colors of paint.
Well, they chip that material off, and it's very hard, obviously. And then they sell it to guys like Travis who make knife handles out of it. And it's a hard composite of paint. But as you sand it, all these other colors start coming out from all these past colors that are stuck to the wall. It is so cool. And I love stories like that.
I have a cigar cutter he made.
Oh, really?
With that material.
Oh. What's that? I don't know what it's called.
So now I got the tuber.
Yeah, the tuber?
I got the tuber and I got the cigar cutter.
Yeah, Tuber is a company I'm working with. A friend of mine started this company that makes cigar cases, and it's out of aircraft aluminum. They're really kind of one of a kind. Pretty sick. They're really cool. If you go on Instagram again, you want to see them. I think it's under Tuber Storage, TUBR Storage. You'll see, and they just hit the market a month ago. And then they went down and took them to the PGA show in Orlando, and they won Best of Show.
Yeah.
They won all these awards because people are like, because it holds 2 cigars, any size cigars. And then as you push it closed, it has these little pinholes, and O-rings and a seal where when you close it, you can feel the air push out as you close it. So it hermetically seals your cigars or whatever you want to keep dry, waterproof, sealed, fresh, medication, whatever. They're really cool. So yeah, you have one. You have one of the first ones that rolled off the line that I got and gave it to you for Christmas. Yeah. They're really, really cool.
And I have my Buffalo Trace cigars that I like, and that's what's in there.
Well, and what's really becoming cool that Tuber's figuring out in a hurry is how many golf courses, tournaments. Yeah. I know the Kentucky Derby. All these people are wanting them laser engraved with logos in it.
Yeah.
And it turns out a guy, Juan, from our men's group, he and his wife, Amanda works at the church. They have all these lasers. I have a laser, but I do cutting boards with mine. But they have lasers, so they're engraving all the tubers for Tuber.
Yep.
And there's some going off to like elite golf, like Valhalla Country Club. We made one for Greyhawk, a bunch. But anyway, very, very cool. Knives and cigars, that's how we should start every episode.
That's a great episode.
A vertical pursuit. This is episode 79. Isn't it crazy how, and I don't want to get too political because I don't want to make it think like that you have to align, we love everybody. How crazy is it though that the lid is being blown off so much corruption in this country right now?
I know.
And it seems like every day there's something else that comes out that we're like, what? Oh, that's why we have a deficit? Yep. That's why we have inflation is because, this U.S. aid, this USAID, completely unaccountable.
Yep.
Just giving, so here are a few projects where U.S. taxpayer money was spent. $7.9 million to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language, $20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq, $4.5 million to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan, there's lists of this stuff. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. This is U.S. taxpayer money, by the way. $10 million worth of U.S. aid-funded meals, which went to an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group. $25 million for Dwight to promote green transportation in the country of Georgia. $6 million for tourism in Egypt. Why? I don't know. $2.5 million to promote inclusion in Vietnam. Another $16.8 million in Vietnam for a separate inclusion group. $20 million for a group related to a key player in the Russiagate impeachment hoax. Come on. It's crazy. It is. I bring that up because we think in this day and age when we're more informed than ever and that the media is this middleman or has been an unbiased middleman, then we start to see the veil go up, and behind the curtain is this what?
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. How is this happening?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think what's hard about that is how many years and years and years of special interest and politicians who are working the system, working deals, and right. Like we pay for all of that, and everybody has their agenda, and then they're making these deals on the side, but using taxpayer dollars for it. And it is corruption. That's at the end of the day, it's what it is. And it's a little scary right now, but good in a good way, because I'm like, what's next that they're going to uncover?
Oh, I know.
We could find out something like, okay, this goes beyond transgender education in Vietnam. This is like, whoa, are we involved in things that we should, who knows now? And I know people are saying, is there money going to come out that's connected to child trafficking? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Again, we'll find out. I'm not saying it is, but people are thinking, what are we going to find? The whole point of this is we're living in days where more and more people are just going, can I just trust? No, I can't trust who's in leadership. And so when we look at the administration right now, who seems to be trying to uncover those things and hold accountability, and you may not agree with everything that's happening right now. There's some things that I'm like, I don't know what to think of it.
Sure, that's okay.
With Gaza, I'm like, I don't know what to do with Gaza right now with that. You know, like, are we all going to go get Airbnbs in Gaza, RMLS Gaza? Like, you know, like, are your new vacation home going to be there? And
Like that's leverage. That's not going to happen.
and again, that's what there's so much more, you know, people say 4D chess and the art of the deal. And there's a lot of that
Correct.
stuff going on that I tell people, I go, just wait and see, like, you know, stuff with ICE and that's going on right now. Anyways, not that we don't need to go down those roads right now.
Sure.
It's hard, but it is hard. I'll just say this. I'll summarize all this. It's hard when things have been so jacked up that when you're trying to recorrect and realign some things, that it's jarring because, you know, it's like, oh, now are we overcorrecting? I don't know. The point of it is that when things have gotten so out of alignment and there has been no accountability and things have gone without any leadership like they have been, then when someone comes in and is trying to bring correction, it can feel jarring. And I think it's just let some things play out and see where it goes.
But some of the stuff I just listed off, which by the way was a fraction of what they've discovered.
Oh, I saw some other stuff too.
That's
It's
not
like-
rumor. That's
No, that's fact. Those are
documented.
real things.
This is a real thing. So I have friends on both sides of the aisle, and I'm not crazy loony fringe either side. I really am not. But I have friends who are left of center decidedly who are going,
Yep.
holy cow, I didn't realize this. And you may not agree with who's in power now. That's okay if you don't.
That's fine if you don't.
But
at the
I
same time,
I think there's a reason to celebrate if anybody goes in and discovers
Yep.
and has the courage to unmask and unveil stuff that is just plain wrong.
Yeah.
Especially if it
that's
goes even further with what you're talking about.
That's the stuff I'm like, we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, come on. You have to have your head in the sand to not think that there's levels of corruption that goes beyond people just making financial gain, where they've turned people into commodities. I mean, Epstein, Diddy. I mean,
Yeah.
these are high profile celebrities and people both in the entertainment world, political world, that are just involved in sick, dark things. And the Bible talks about that. We've done so many podcasts on this.
I know.
But it's true.
Money
so
and power.
why should it surprise us that these things are being uncovered and exposed and brought to the light because they've been held in the darkness and secrecy? The Bible says men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. They love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. And there's a lot of evil deeds that have been going on, and it's been kept in the dark, and some of that's coming to the light now, and who knows what else will. Well, that's for us to wait and see. But
Well, and even, to find out that they were funding the middleman, the BBC, Politico, that's documented too. So they were buying the messenger.
everybody wants a piece of it. So
But even through this program, this USAID, they were funding journalists, because that's when you go, and that's when you also realize, you just brought up the Bible. You start to go, yes, money, power, we realize how it corrupts. And clearly there's a lot of that in the Bible. So we haven't changed that much, clearly. But then you see the power of controlling who is the messenger, who has the word,
exactly.
who brings you truth. And if you can use money and power to make that truth fit your purposes,
Yep.
then the person who has the power and who is the middleman, that's the person to get to.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think, again, in this day and age, when we are supposedly more informed than ever, we have more information at our fingertips than ever. That's where I kind of go, how it's just so weird in this day and age to think that there could be such conspiracies, things that were called conspiracies, which we're now figuring out.
With truth.
Yeah, conspiracy theorists are like 56-0, and we're like, whoa, at what point is it not a conspiracy
Well, that's
anymore?
the point. And I think the other last thing we were saying, we can change subjects, but we weren't even going to talk about it.
No, I didn't
But
decide.
you do realize that corruption unchecked and unaccounted, it becomes the slow fade of justifications. And so you can start something and move it in the right direction. It's great. And then just incrementally it gets off track with one justification. Oh, hey, we need money for this project. And it might sound like it started good years and years and years ago. But somebody now goes, oh, if we add this piece to it, and they can benefit off that. And nobody held that accountable. So then it fades again. And before you know it, now you've drifted way off and you've got crazy stuff happening. And then when it comes to course correction, getting back on, then that's what you see.
So using a term I used a minute ago, let me wade into this a little bit with you. And this is changing the topic, but also goes to the biblical thing we were talking about a second ago in the past, and information and the middleman. So, Pastor Tatlock, do you consider yourself a middleman?
That's a good way. Yeah, we all are in some ways. So let me contrast that. Not in the way that a Catholic priest would consider himself a middleman.
Yeah.
Definitely not that. Where you have to like come and confess to me that you would a priest. Not at all. If you're a Jesus follower, a believer in Jesus, the Bible says you have access to God directly. You don't have to go through anybody else. Jesus is our middleman. And so we go to him. And so he's the ultimate middleman, if you will. He is. He's our intercessor. But we are also called to intercede on behalf of other people. So God works through us. We are the middle people, as all Jesus followers are, not just as a pastor, because God works through us to reach people. So as Jesus is the middleman for us to God, Jesus uses us to reveal himself to the world. So we become an expression of him between him and the world. So we are all middle people in that regard.
So then I guess we would say, do we need a man to tell us?
Oh, yeah.
You're good with God. Do we need that middleman?
No. I think that Scripture talks about that. I love the verse that says, "How will they believe? How will people believe unless they hear? And how will they hear unless somebody is sent to them? Beautiful are the feet of the one who brings the message," right? And it basically says like, yeah, how are people going to hear the message of the gospel of Jesus? It takes someone. And so we all are the messengers. So we are, in a sense, the middle people. We're the middleman, the middle woman between God and the world. We are ambassadors, of the kingdom of heaven, because we are called citizens of heaven. We are ambassadors. That language is used. So we represent. So we're all middle people in terms of like we represent God. We represent Christ on earth. And we are the messengers that he relays his message through. So we're all middle people in that regard.
So if you're a disciple maker or a fisher of men,
you are.
You are to some degree a middleman.
Exactly.
Okay.
All of us are.
And then comes the responsibility of being a middleman, because we know this is in the past, well, and still today, you can be indoctrinated by a middleman.
Oh, absolutely.
Pretty easily.
Very easily.
And they can have power over you.
Exactly.
Which when you go back and how we started this one with the media, and there's been so much talk about getting indoctrinated, and we talk about how colleges can tend to indoctrinate kids once they get them away from their parents and on a campus. And I think everybody kind of agrees that can certainly happen, where we have friends even I know who, and I'm at that stage, with kids at that age where it's kind of, we have good friends who are like friends from the church who just say, we sent our kid off to a college and they came home, we don't even recognize them. And they want nothing to do with church, Jesus. They've just disavowed. I mean, they're like walking in different, they're like, how'd that happen? They went to college and got indoctrinated.
Yeah, 100%.
By a middleman.
By a middleman. I mean, the Bible talks about false teachers, false prophets, and those are people who lead people astray, and they can be in the religious form. They don't have to be religious leaders to be false prophets, because I think a lot of our media are false prophets. A prophet was someone who spoke the word, and if someone's speaking using their platform misrepresenting God, I would consider that person a false prophet, whether it's in the religious sense or the secular sense. But in the Bible, it was speaking specifically to people who were of the religious nature, promoting a different gospel or a different religion, and it was leading people astray.
And led by different things. I mean, in Scripture, there are two kinds of men. A spiritual man, controlled by the Holy Spirit, and the carnal man, who is ruled by his possessions. And I think Paul in Ephesians uses the terms old man and new man.
Yeah. Yeah.
He even says, put off the old man, which grows corrupt according to deceitful lusts, and put on the new man, which was created according to God.
Yeah.
I think that kind of relates directly to what we're talking about.
It does.
I didn't plan to go here on this one. Where I was planning to go to, which is more related to what I kind of opened with, is this idea. I agree with you. I agree with you that when I, usually at night, late, when I will tend to get into reading some social media posts and threads about different things in the world, especially now, I'm like you in that there's a lot to be excited about as the veil to some degree is lifted and we're starting to see these things, but it's also uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I read a lot about in the Christian world, and my wife went through this a couple weeks ago. She's in a couple Bible studies, and one of her big Bible studies, she was called upon to share her testimony in front of a large group. From childhood through breast cancer, dad passing away, everything. And she didn't want to do it. And she's like, this makes me really uncomfortable. And she did it and did a good job. I knew she would. We talked about it. She didn't exactly ask for advice, but I gave it, which is probably not great. That's awesome. But we've also talked about the fact that I can't do third grade math, but I can speak in front of a group. It didn't bother me because of what I used to do. And, speaking on TV and live TV and whatever, and knowing our games are on NBA International worldwide and stuff, it just never bothered me. And I'm not sure why that is. And I've always heard people have this great fear of speaking. And, it's like the number one fear is speaking in front of a crowd. You know this too.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Especially because I was talking about what somebody else was doing. Your role is different. I don't know if I could do what you do because yours is you're giving sermons and you have an accountability that I didn't have simply as an NBA broadcaster. When in the Bible it basically says to you are held to a different account than the regular people. But in terms of, I tried to tell her, I didn't need to tell her this, but I said, when God wants you to grow, he makes you uncomfortable, be it whatever. Yeah. And if it comes to a talk or if it comes to, our friend Jim, he takes his grandsons to the grocery store one day a week and they buy flowers and they go, and he tells his grandkids to go give them to people. Just look and see who they think needs a flower today and go tell them you're going to pray for them and here's a flower. Yeah. And he has these amazing stories that come out of that. Now, for me, that's pretty uncomfortable. Yeah. I mean, obviously for a man to go give flowers to a bunch of random women at Fred Meyer.
Creep with the parking lot of Fred Meyer.
Stalker, stranger danger. As a little kid, I'm sure that's kind of cool, but it is an example of something that kind of makes me feel like it would make me uncomfortable. But I like the idea that we need to find a way to embrace the uncomfortable. You do that at times as a pastor. And lately, everything in church has been on fire lately, and your sermons have been fantastic. And sometimes at the end of a sermon, you will tell people, okay, we're going to get out of our comfort zones and I'm going to have you either group up and pray with total strangers or gather here or come to the stage or whatever. Why do you do that? And is there a method to your madness here in terms of pushing people past their comfort zones in a goal of what I just said a second ago? God wants, in order to grow, you got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like the idea of being stretched so that we can grow. And I think that there's two ways of looking at it. There's the uncomfortable that comes because life throws uncomfortable things at us, and trials and struggles and just hard stuff that we all go through. That stretches us. There's no doubt about that. And then when you are a leader and you're trying to help people grow, like a trainer in the gym. You know, if you got someone who comes to you and they say, hey, I want to get in shape, and you say, okay, great. And you're going to start with nutrition. You're going to start with workout plans. You say, hey, let's go here to the treadmill. Today, we're going to start you off at number 3, and we're going to put the incline at 0. And you get going at that. And you can tell when that person's like, okay, you've got this down pretty good, but if we don't go to the next thing, it's going to plateau. So let's set the incline now to 2. Let's kick it up to 5. And you feel it at first, like, but then what do? Is you rise to that. You build your training and your stamina increases. And then you look back and now you're running marathons when you couldn't walk down the street. And so I think Jesus did the same thing, is that he would invite the disciples into things that stretched them, but for good reasons. He didn't want to break them, but he did want to stretch them. And I think, at church at times,
no pain, no gain.
No pain, no gain. Yeah, that's it. And I think so some Sundays it's great just to end the service like, hey, go live it. Other Sundays you can tell it's like, hey, one of the things that I've been feeling led more to is every time we do that, we say, hey, if you're here and you're struggling, just lift up your hand. You don't have to share anything. It's not about that. It's not that vulnerable. It is vulnerable to raise your hand, say I need prayer, but you're not sharing anything. Nobody hands you a mic and says, tell everybody here your deepest, darkest pain. All you're doing is saying, hey, I need prayer. No one needs to know why. And I kind of go, man, that should be more normal for us as Christians. It should be normal because the reality is this, every hand should be up.
Yeah, right.
So when you say, hey, anybody here need prayer for anything? I mean, I know, if we're all honest, well, yeah. So
is that a fear of being uncomfortable?
I think it is. I think it's also a fear of what people maybe assume is going to happen. I'm exposed. So that could be like, I want to just be here and be quiet. I don't want to be seen. I just want to sit in, and that's fine. So it's like, I don't want to be a standout. I think that's a healthy, normal fear. I think some people have a greater fear thinking I'm going to be called out. And I think some people have a fear of, well, what's next? And so I don't want to take this step because I'm
what
worried
else
about
is going to be asked of me?
Exactly. Step 4 is coming. I wasn't wanting that one. So if I don't want step 4, I'm not going to take step 1. Step 1, so we mitigate all those fears and risks by, and so I'm like, well, for me, what I'm trying to do is say, we've done this multiple times. Raise your hand, pray for you, and there's no strings attached. Nobody's going to ask anything from you. Nobody's going to, solicit from you, put a mic in front of your face. And you do this 10 times, and someone goes, oh, they weren't asking for anything else. And I'm so glad I did, because here's a perfect example. The other day, I got a text from a woman who raised her hand in church. And again, this lasts for maybe a few minutes. It's not forever. So it's not past awkwardness. But say, hey, if you need prayer, just lift up your hand. And if you're around somebody that has their hand up, just put a hand on their shoulder, because the Bible talks about physical touch in an appropriate way.
I do like that.
Where you kind of go, I'm not alone. And so many times, the church is supposed to be a family.
You had the dudes do that last Wednesday night.
Yes.
When we closed out, it was 40 guys around a big table, and you just said, grab the guy's shoulder to the neck. And some guys I think it's probably weird for them, but it connects. It's a weird thing.
The Bible speaks about it. Lay hands on each other, and it's a mystery, but it's also like, it's meant to be. We're tangible people. So, give a bro hug. That's cool. This is what we do. So this woman, she stands up, lifts her hand. A few people gather around. She has her eyes closed, and people put their hands on her shoulder, and they're praying for her. And she's super encouraged by the prayers. She's so glad she did it. And then when we got done with the prayer time, she looked to see who had her hands on her shoulder from behind. And she turned around, and it was a former student of hers.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't know he was, because she had her back to him. So the moment she turned around, they both realized who each other was, and they reconnected, and it was a really cool thing. But that all came out of that little short time of, hey, just need prayer for each other. But again, coming back to your whole point is, it was worth that stretch. It was worth the let's kind of move beyond just getting comfortable and casual. Let's take that next incline. Let's kick it up to 3 and watch what God will do with that. And what it does too, what I love about it, the other reason we do it in church is because oftentimes when it comes to like praying for someone, it's the haves and have-nots. It's the professional paid prayer people, the pastors, the staff. And what we end up creating in our church culture is we're the ones, and you can't do it, and we do it. And then when all of a sudden you say, hey, turn to the person next to you and pray for them, not only do they get encouraged, but you kind of go, oh, God used me. Well, that's the whole point of this. He wants to use all of us. None of us have more of God than anybody else.
So back to the middleman conversation.
Exactly. He uses all of us, and we're all the middleman. So just be that for each other.
Well, and it's a pretty obvious and easy lesson to know that, the more diligent you are at doing your daily push-ups, the stronger you become. Totally. And then the idea that muscles atrophy.
Yep.
Exactly. When they're neglected, and the strength you began with will only decrease as your muscles shrink. So it's an easy thing to consider when you talk about this whole no pain, no gain thing. And and I'm in a period of life where, man, I have a lot of, and this is one, for me, I guess it's a positive and a negative. What came out of the silly COVID time was, how would you have liked to had a chance to buy stock in Zoom meetings, which are so commonplace now, and they didn't used to be. So my point is, I'm at a position right now where I spend a lot of days in multiple Zoom calls, and a lot of time they're spread out. So some people don't work well at home. I don't mind it that much. I'd rather be there than driving all over the place for sitting in traffic for meetings. But I get this overwhelming feeling at times that I'm wasting my time. I don't feel like I'm being productive doing that, so I have to battle that. But when you talk about this whole thing about strength and comfort, what I notice myself is I don't want to say the lazier, but kind of, because all of a sudden it becomes really comfortable working at home.
Oh, totally.
And that's why they've had a hard time getting people to go back to work at a lot of places, especially federal government. Yeah. They've talked about, they finally told the people, and I know Elon Musk told people at his companies, you come back, you're gone.
Yeah. And some people said no.
I know. It's like, I like being in my underwear.
Zoom call with just a suit jacket on and your underwear.
Yeah, I don't know anybody I actually used to, when I was hosted that Monday night show on NBC in the Northwest, I would always have sweatpants on or shorts and a jacket and a tie. Nobody knew it because I didn't stand up. So.
Exactly.
But I know that you talk about gifts that we have, and I'm not moving in a new direction. This is all related, but the blessings and consequences that we do with the gifts and talents that God has entrusted us with. And this is where I get frustrated, because I look at some days go by where I have a few meetings, and I'm not saying nothing happens in the meetings. There's some production, but I wonder how some of those days go by, and I don't like having days where I don't feel like I'm productive or have used whatever muscle, including your brain, I guess. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And so therefore, when we relate it back to what you were just talking about, working muscles and being uncomfortable, I think for me anyway, there's a danger in that of just having every day be really comfortable sitting at home in my little office at home and not doing anything out of my comfort zone. And I don't like that.
I know. Well, and again, there's where we pursue being stretched, and that could be like, you are living your life and you allow God to interrupt your life for something he might want to do. And you're driving your car, you're going between business meetings, and you see someone that, like Jim shared with us the other day, we were having breakfast, and he was sharing about a mutual friend of ours who was driving out in the country. And this is a perfect example where he's driving down the road, and he sees a car broken down on the side of the road. And he pulls over, stops, opens the trunk to get the spare out and the jack, because the woman that was there, she didn't have the right tools. So he pulls over and notices there's a wheelchair in the back seat or the trunk of the car, and realizes it's a mom with her disabled child. And he helps her out, gets the tire fixed.
He didn't know it was a disabled child till he went to open the trunk to get the spare out and saw a wheelchair in the trunk.
which is
And he's
crazy.
like, whoa.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay. And then he proceeded to give money out of his wallet to say, hey, go buy dinner. And the reason we know the story is because that was a defining moment for him, because he thought this is the right thing to do. But my point of bringing that up is we could be so busy in our lives, because the conversation that we had right after that, the three of us, was, gosh, would I have stopped?
Yeah.
He did, and it filled his tank. Like, he filled himself with,
proud of himself.
Man, I got to be a part of helping somebody that day. And I think God allows our lives to get interrupted with opportunities all the time to step into something. And some of those things we step into are easy, like, oh, no, I've fixed 1,000 flats. Okay, great. But he might interrupt your life to say, hey, step into something, because it might be a person that you don't like, a person you disagree with, and it's awkward and uncomfortable. And you're like, gosh, I'm feeling a tug in me right now that I'm supposed to, whatever it might be, show some kindness to them or help them. And you're outside your comfort zone. And what happens is, the more you step into those, the comfort zones increase. And now you're doing things you never would have thought you'd done before, because you were willing to allow the little uncomfortable things to stretch you in a good way. But then we have the other side of things, which is being stretched when we don't want to be stretched. And the trials, the hardships, challenges that we go through, those ones are still shaping us, refining us, growing us. But those ones are the ones where we go, man, I don't want to be in this right now. I don't mind pulling over and helping somebody fix their tire. I'll do that 100 times today, but I don't want to have to go through this season where your faith is being stretched because you just found out, a loved one has cancer. Those are the ones you're like, this is a different kind of stretch. This is a different kind of uncomfortableness. This is me going, wow, in this time, how my faith is going to be stretched. There's no doubt about it. But that's a different kind of uncomfortable.
Why is pain so central to, when you read the Bible and you even read some scripture and you hear people talk about, or I've even heard people, like in some of these men's groups, say, as soon as I started getting closer to the Lord, I felt myself kind of come under attack, and I felt these obstacles thrown in front of me. Why is pain such a central part of being a Christian?
Yeah, it just came up. I was with our young adult cohort guys on Tuesday night, and one of them talked about, the Bible says that we suffer for Christ. He's like, what does that mean, to suffer for Christ? He goes, that sounds kind of harsh. And it's the idea is that sometimes being a Christian, you will suffer just by identifying as a Christian. I've had friends who are from other countries in the world where they get death threats, and one friend of mine has been shot a few times by AK-47s by the Taliban, and they put a fatwa, which is a death wish on your life. And I remember sitting with him and hearing his stories, going, "Whoa, okay, that's a level of suffering and persecution, if you will, by identifying as a Christian." But then there's the other suffering, which is as you suffer through life trials, not for being a Christian, but as a Christian, when you suffer differently. So what that means is you have a purpose to the pain. Whereas some people go, the purpose of life is pleasure and happiness. And so pain just gets in the way of that. If the ultimate goal for you in life is just happiness, comfort, and great, all of that, then pain has no purpose. It actually, it's the opposite. So you're going to do everything you can in your life to pursue pleasure, to pursue, self-happiness, whatever. But as a follower of Christ, our aim and goal is to become more like Jesus. And so somehow the Bible uses trials and suffering as like a refining fire. It purifies the gold. So you take gold has to go into the fire because it burns off the impurities so that it has something more pure and precious on the other side of that. So for Christians, we see suffering with a purpose, that through it shapes us to become more like Christ. It increases our faith. It forces us to depend on God. And as we depend on God, we experience him more. So now there's a purpose to it. That's where, like, the story of Job is a perfect example. Here's Job, where he was already a righteous dude. He was a good dude. And then Satan wants to come and prove to God that he's only has faith in God because his life has been good. And God allows Satan to test him. And so the next thing you know, he calamity hits his life. He loses a lot of his family. He goes through everything he loses his possessions, his wealth, his physical health. He's got boils everywhere. His life is so bad that his wife, who's all that's left, by the way, of his family, tells him, just curse yourself so you can die, which is,
Supportive.
that's really a supportive wife. Good for you, honey. Thanks a lot. We needed that pep talk today.
Appreciate that.
But the point of it, people know the story of Job pretty well. But when you get to the end, Job says, I have a faith not by hearsay.
Yeah, I love that.
I've tasted of God's faithfulness firsthand. So that story we have in the Bible is meant to be an example, not that we all have to go through what Job went through, but it's subjective to the trials you go through, is that you, on the other side of that, you experience God's faithfulness. Yes, it shapes us, refines us, but you see God's strength and power in your life. And so you know him more on the other side of that. So that, again, God doesn't want us to wake up every day and just suffer. Like there's some people who think it's kind of a sadistic way.
Yeah.
Because we're also called to a life of joy, a life of celebration, a life of peace, a life of hope. Some people take this really, really kind of dark, masochistic, I got to take a whip and, throw it over my back every day. And many people, they call it the mortification of the flesh. And so I'm just going to, put myself through self-misery because we're not allowed to enjoy anything. And that's the extreme. That's not healthy either. God calls us to a life of joy. But when we do go through trials and sufferings, there's a purpose in it. And that's the point of the uncomfortableness. There's a gain.
Comment on the, another obvious one and that people know well is James 1.
Count it all joy.
Yeah, for know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing.
Yeah.
Talk about what that means.
Yeah. So when the Bible uses in the New Testament, whenever it uses the word perfect, it has a person in mind, Jesus, because he's the only perfect. So when we are growing to become like Jesus, you could say we are being perfected. We're being, over time, day by day, trials, all those sort of things. We are being perfected into his image to be more like him, love like him, serve like him, be him, those sort of things. Take on his attributes more and more and more. And my old attributes, the negative ones get burned off to the side. But I love the James one because it starts with such an impossible thought of counting it all joy when you face trials. But again, if you understand what the trial, which is what that verse does, he goes on to say, well, then as this is tested, you take endurance, you go through that, your faith increases, and then you'll be lacking nothing. What he's saying in the end there is that you are gaining more of the life of Jesus in you. And so therefore, your deficit of him in your life, becoming more like him, it changes. You going through the hardship, you get more of him in you, and not in terms of possessive, but you become more like him. And so he says, if you understand that's the goal of your life, it puts a purpose on the trial, puts a purpose on this. God's going to do something in this. He's going to show himself faithful through this. And so then he gives that word joy of like, almost like expectation of God, what do you have in this that you're going to show who you are? I brought a deck of cards because I thought I would tell this story. It might help us.
Oh,
if I showed you, I don't know if I've told you this story.
I don't think so. I didn't notice you had cards.
That's why I grabbed these, because I thought I would, kind of a story that kind of helps. It's years ago, you were still working with the Blazers and we were working together. You were broadcasting and we had a game. We did chapel, and you've been into chapels, and and I heard this idea from a guy and another chaplain, so I took his idea. But I brought a poker chip in, and I gave all the players a poker chip, and then I brought a royal flush with me, like I'm holding in my hand right now. I'm holding a royal flush, all hearts. So I've got king, queen, ace, jack, 10 of hearts in my hand. It's a royal flush, and I say anybody who plays poker, when you have this in your hand, you go all in.
Right.
So then I turn the cards over, and each of the cards represents what God gives us, his gifts to us, his power. He gives us purpose, his promises, his potential in us. He gives us his peace. And I said, if you hold these things, then you go all in with him, because I'm going all in on his hand. I'm going all in because he went all in on us. So I give the players a poker chip, And I say, you have to make a choice every day that when you go through hardship, are you going to keep going all in? Or are you going to have a fickle faith, which is, well, I'm only going to have faith in God as long as things go good.
As long as I'm comfortable.
And exactly. Only when I'm comfortable. And if it gets uncomfortable, I'm out. And I'm like, well, if that's the only faith you're going to have, it's going to be up and down. And so I say, you have to make a choice every day to go all in, go all in. And I give them a Sharpie and I tell them, I want you to write that on the poker chip, all in. And I said, so whenever you face anything this season and it's hard, pull that poker chip out as a reminder. Okay, God, this is hard. I'm uncomfortable. I have uncomfortable things, but I'm going to choose to trust you, and I'm going to go all in, because as you go all in, he promises to give us what we need. Point is, he gives us the royal flush. So all that to say is, we did that in chapel, great, but the big part was what happened during the game. So I go up in the seats and watching the game. It's like third quarter of a playoff game, and I saw one of the players on our bench that was in chapel. He gets up in the third quarter, middle of the game. He goes running to the bathroom, running to the locker room, and another player on the bench went chasing after him, which that's just odd. The only reasons players in the middle of a game would leave the bench is getting treatment for an injury or using the restroom, something like that. But players, you don't just leave the bench. You're ready for when the coach wants to put you in. So when I saw two of them, I thought something's off. So I walked into the locker room, again, during the third quarter, and one of the players was sitting, crying, weeping, tears down his face. And the other player had his hand on his shoulder, just encouraging him. And I walked over to see how he was doing, the one player with tears in his eyes. And I said, how are you? And he looked at me, and all he said was, all in, all in, all in. And I don't know. I didn't ask, like, hey, what are you going through? I didn't need to. The point of it was he was going through something really uncomfortable in his life. And when do you see a professional player in the middle of a game go into the locker room crying? And that sounds like...
Because we have to be reminded that they're real people.
That's the thing. Real people, crazy stress, crazy everything. People want to take advantage, and they're human just like the rest of us. And ESPN's not going to tell the story. SportsCenter is not going to tell the story. But my point was that he had to make that choice that day of going, okay, this is super uncomfortable, whatever he's going through, but saying, I'm going to go all in. And when you do that, your faith grows. And then when you face the next adversity and challenge and uncomfort, you draw from the faith from the previous one. And then your faith grows and it's stretched. And before you know it, you're a muscle builder and you're like, wow, you're really spiritually fit. Well, that's because of all the stretching and the uncomfortableness through either life circumstances or just growing in your faith.
Do you, as the NBA team chaplain, I know you've done it for a long time now, and when I was there, I was fortunate to be in the locker room or the weight room where I think you used to do them. I don't think you do them there anymore, but you tell some crazy cool stories about what's going on right now. My first question before you get into that, do you, speaking of being uncomfortable, we know that for players to step out in faith, I think it's becoming, it seems like lately easier.
Yeah.
Whereas for a period there, they would be really afraid of being labeled and being uncomfortable coming out and talking about it. Yeah. Are you finding more of a willingness and maybe more of a courage right now?
Yeah, it seems that, especially you're seeing it a lot in high school or college and high school football, but college football for sure. You'll see it in pro football. And I know there's always been athletes over the years that, at the end of a game, they'll say something, small, a little token, give God credit for today's playoff win or something like that. And people would give them a hard time saying that, but they mean that. A lot of them mean that. They really do. They really are just thanking God. They're not saying the other team is godless, that God picks. That's not what they're saying.
No.
People will give them a hard time and say, it's like somebody just this other day, I walked out of our locker room where we did chapel, and one of the parking garage attendants said, hey, do you pray that our team wins every night? And I said, no, we never pray that. We've never prayed that. One, because we never talk about games. It's just not what we do in chapel.
Right.
But two, we have both teams in chapel. How awkward would that be at the end of a chapel? Let's bring it in, guys. You got both teams there, and God, I pray
you guys
that
lose
we just destroy the other.
Yeah, you missed key free throws down the stretch. That's funny.
But anyway, but so for these guys, when they get a victory, they're not saying, well, God was on our side, he's not on the other side. They're just saying, hey, this is a cool moment, and I just want to give God glory and use the moment that the spotlight's on them to tell the world where their faith is. We're seeing an increase of that right now. I think we're seeing a bold. It's funny because when you look in the book of Acts, it says when the Holy Spirit would move on people, they spoke the word of God with more boldness. And I think we're seeing that right now. I really think that the Spirit of God is stirring in people to say, I'm not ashamed, and and there's more boldness, and not arrogance. There's a difference, but boldness to say, hey, I'm going to let people know that this is my faith. You're seeing it with coaches, football coaches, players, all across sports, even some celebrities are starting to be more bold about their faith. And I also think the other reason it is people are getting tired of secularism. This whole movement of progressivism, let's turn everybody into whatever gender you want, and people are kind of going, it doesn't work. And I'm talking about people who are part of that. And I'm not talking about people who are always against that, but people who go, I was told be anything I want, do anything I want, and people have done that going, I'm not satisfied. So they're kind of looking at the promises that the world has been making, going, I'm still empty. And they're turning to Christ going, gosh, that's where I'm finding fulfillment. And they're excited and they want to share it. So that's what we're seeing. Which
You'll get my identity there, perhaps.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you talked a minute ago about our friend who stopped and helped that lady change a flap and taking advantage of moments. But I also want you to talk about and give you credit and honor you for, as I'm hearing more stories about you as a team chaplain, it would be easy to arrive at the arena, go get your meal, hang out with guys or guys you're comfortable, go, sniff, be a jock sniffer like some of those guys are, go talk to some of the key players, hang out with them, try to sneak in a photo, and then leave. But the stories you tell, to me especially, because I've been there and was there for so many years, it isn't about a player. All your stories, and when you're happy about something or when you've gotten amazing honor or joy from something, it's been from a minimum wage usher who you went over, and all of a sudden now you've got a relationship with, and they're asking you for the chapel notes or a Bible or a vintage masculinity book. What's going on there? Because it seems like all of a sudden there's kind of a fire going there.
It's crazy. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's every night. And I'm not saying that every night is heaven's coming open and angels falling everywhere. And what I mean by crazy is just the openness that people are really open right now to talk about God. And it's a crazy thing. I mean, yeah, you take and people can do this anywhere. And I think that's why if you say you're just meeting with athletes, people go, that's not me. I can't do that. It's not about that. It's not about that. When I walk into the arena, I spend probably maybe 30 minutes with the athletes and teams and coaches. The rest, probably another hour and a half, I'm walking through the arena, talking to ushers and security.
What about the ticket or the guy at the gate?
Yeah.
Tell that.
Yeah, the guy at I mean, that's, when everybody goes to a parking garage, you go through the booth where the guy's in the booth and they have the little arm that they push and opens it up so you can go through. And
the main goal is getting through there as quickly as possible.
That's the goal. And it is true because there's traffic. But I don't know. There's a guy that was interesting because the first night of this season, because that job rotates every season. It's a different person, and because people, they're minimum wage jobs, and people hopefully are just trying to find something better. But so new guy, I don't know him, and I knew the person last year because you see him every game. Hey, how you doing? And the first game he was kind of, wasn't as friendly, and but that's fine. Second game, I come up and I'm like, you know what? And I just stopped and I said, hey man, what's your name? And he just smiled, and it was a different demeanor. And his name is Mike also. And So now I just stop every time. And if there's cars behind me, I don't care. And I'm not stopping for 20 or 30 minutes. It's probably 30 seconds. And I'll stop and I'll say, hey, Mike, how are you doing? What's going on? How can I pray for you? And he'll say, oh man, pray for my arm or pray for this or whatever. I'm like, I got you. That's it. And he's just open now. And so that's all I do. I just walk around and say, how are people doing? It's such a fast paced world. It's amazing what happens if you take 10 seconds, look somebody in the eyes, ask them their name. How you doing?
But for some people, that sounds really uncomfortable.
It does.
To do that.
Yeah, it does.
Number one, the uncomfortable fact about walking up to someone you don't know and striking up a conversation, not knowing how they're going to accept that, or they're going to think you're weird, the chances of a weird outcome. And then the other part of it, the uncomfort of it, is I don't have time.
That's the big piece. I
got enough going on.
I got enough going on. I'm just trying to get from A to B, and I don't care anything in between, back to the car on the side of the road, stopping. And I have found, like, when you walk up to someone, again, I'm not saying just walking up to strangers because that's awkward. People, I have a badge, and so I look like I work for the team. Mm-hmm. We're all there. We all have a job. So you're in the safe zone. You're not just somebody on the street. I get that. It's different. This could be people you work with, though. These are people you go to school with, people you work with, your neighbors. So it doesn't have to be in an arena. But like, I walk in and I'll say, hey, how you doing? And 99% of the time people just go, hey, good, yeah. But you can read, and you do this really well. You can read when it's just not, you can tell with some, hey man, how you doing? Oh, it's good, man, great. And then one time it's doing okay. And you're like, they just answered differently. And if you do it consistently enough, you can begin to tell that's a different answer today. They still said, I'm good, but no, that sounded. And then you just pause for a second and go, hey man, how you really doing? Well.
And how many people have noticed that and asked them that question?
That's the thing. And that's the part is like just not being in such a rush to be consistent enough, asking people how they're doing so that you could pick up those cues, and then taking the time to maybe just not press hard, but just go, hey, you sure you're okay? Just a little follow-up question. Well, actually, going through this, my wife's going through this, my kid's going through this, found this out, went to the doctor. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. How can I pray for you? Well, just pray for, this and that. And that right there, just the walls start to come down. And then people go, actually, I could use some prayer. Great. And sometimes I'll pray right there. Like, let me pray for you. Sometimes like, I got you. And it's just, you just kind of want to be sensitive to their job. They're working, so they got a job to do. So you don't want to get them in trouble because you're taking all their time. But then there's times, there was a guy last night who, I won't say who he is or where he works, but he works security in the locker room area. And I walked by, I said, how you doing? He's like, I just the way he answered, I was like, you answered differently. I paused and I said, hold on a second. What's going on? He said, man, my heart is racing. I got an irregular heartbeat. He goes, it's screaming right now. I'm really anxious. And I said, can I pray for you? And he's like, yeah. And it's the first time I've ever prayed with him. And I said, do you mind if I pray with you this time? And he said, yeah. And I just put my hand on his shoulder and just prayed with him. Just
wow.
that God would calm his heart, whatever. And it literally was 30 seconds.
You know what I always think about, though, when you tell me those stories? I'm thinking as much about his reaction, his posture, but I'm thinking about the people who are watching that. So that's a safe zone. And in our final story here, I want you to say, because I want to honor you again for something. Okay, that was a safe zone. You just talked about that. Your gas station story the other night wasn't. No. So tell that one, and then we're going to say goodbye.
All right. No, honestly, I think for me, I have a mixed. It was the homeless guy, and we all see homeless people. And I'm not saying you should stop for every homeless person. That's just not realistic. So I'm not leaving that impression that you got to feel like, oh my gosh, I didn't stop for this sign, and I feel guilty now. Like, that's not the paint. I don't want to paint that picture. This was just a day where I was just walking to a gas station, and the guy asked me, it was awesome. I was, hey dude, can you get me some beer? I'm like, hey.
He was just hanging outside out
front.
front.
A homeless guy just hanging outside the gas station. And I'm like, hey, I'm not going to discredit the guy for asking for some beer. I mean,
sure.
he just, But I said, no, I'm not going to buy you any alcohol. And he asked me like 2 other times, are you sure? Come on, man, give me some beer. It's like high school days.
Yeah.
Hey, man, can you go get us some beer?
Except you were the guy asking.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, no, man. But I said, you hungry? He's like, yeah. I said, well, what do you want? He said, Doritos.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, man after my own heart.
Absolutely.
So I'm walking in. The best part, he yells out, hey, give me the flaming ones.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, again.
Had a favorite.
Exactly. And it wasn't a big deal. I think that's my whole point of the story was these aren't big deals. I think God works in
It's uncomfortable, but it
mundane
wasn't a
little
big deal.
things. Well, yeah, it is. And the more you do it, the less uncomfortable it gets. But anyway, bought him some groceries. Wasn't a big deal. Literally was not a big deal. Sandwich, chips, water, candy, jerky. Brought it back out and just felt like I said, hey, man, I think you just need to hear God loves you. And this is from him. Can I just pray for you? And he's like, oh, that'd be great. Pray for him. Again, it was not this eloquent prayer. There's no formula. 30 seconds, just prayed that he would know how much God loves him. Went to get in my truck, and some lady, I don't know who she was, yelled at me, hey, sir. I turn around, and she's like, hey, I needed to see that today. And I was like, well, I didn't know she was around. I wasn't doing it for that. But to your point, I don't know. You wonder if when we step into something and we're helping, it helps ourselves too. It's good. It's good to, because the way I do it now, I think this has shifted. You know, I have a son and a daughter and love them to death, and just they're fun young adults doing great things. But it's weird because I see homeless people a little different. Of like, what if that was my son or daughter?
Yeah, because it is somebody's son or daughter.
It's somebody's son or daughter, and I go, gosh, I would love if somebody in the city they would lend a little hand to help them out. And we could talk about the whole drug and addiction and people taking responsibility. That's a whole other story. Point of it being that, just looking outside ourselves, but also being open to the little interruptions to be stretched.
And maybe it wasn't for him. Maybe it was for the lady who saw you.
Exactly.
That's what I thought.
Who knows what that whole thing was about. And it certainly was good for my own heart because I will say this as we wrap up, and this will be the last story. It does tie into something because the Lord really, and I think this will be the last thing I can say. Years ago, I was down doing a wedding with the Curry family. And so I was down in Malibu and was officiating Seth Curry, which is Steph Curry's wedding or brother. So I'm down there, and most people are like, you could talk about that and brag about that. But I was, right after that wedding, I was going through a drive-through and I saw a homeless teenage girl and boy sitting by an old abandoned, probably was like a Kmart or something. And I just bought like 3 burgers to eat on the way home. And I thought, gosh, they haven't eaten anything probably. Okay. So I zip over there. You guys want some burgers? And they're like, oh, we'd love them. They scarfed them down. I mean, just hammer it. Come on, they're teenage kids, right?
Right.
I went back in line to get more because they were so hungry. So I brought it back, and the Lord really spoke to me. And this is what I heard. I mean, it was like clear as day. The Lord said, I'll let you eat at the table of kings and queens, i.e., NBA players. But he said, only if you eat with those on the street. And it was a good check in my own heart.
Yeah.
It was a good check to the Lord to say, hey, I might open an opportunity of blessing here. And it is. The Lord's like, don't ever let that change and corrupt your posture. So I think for me, being stretched into uncomfortable things with uncomfortable people, it's as good for our own heart and soul to be reminded of this is who we all are, and not to see people in ways that we can kind of look down on them. And anyways, all those reasons, it's as good for us as it is for anybody else.
I love it. And that example once again, and that message once again, that if you want to mature, grow, and be used by God, don't be satisfied with always being comfortable. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast, comment, or message us, and check out our website at verticalpursuit.org. Download the VP app and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.